Shadow character Locke, case file, Mr. Walkabout. John Locke is one of the central protagonists of Lost. This man is the mystery man of the show. He is the natural warrior of the group. If you ask me, I would say that Locke is the true main character of the series Lost. This is the man of faith and destiny. Locke is literally a walking miracle. Locke brings so much to this show. Locke is the only member of the crash survivors who doesn't want to leave the island. Locke believes the island brought him and the rest of the survivors there for a reason. And Locke just doesn't have this belief out of thin air. Locke has evidence to back up his claim about destiny. Before Locke came to the island, his life was very different. Locke is shown to be a good-hearted person, but life has not been too kind to Locke before the island. Locke grew up in foster care, but later in life, he met his father, which didn't turn out as he imagined. Even after everything Locke went through, he never quit. He wouldn't let anything stop him no matter the situation. On the island, Locke became a man of faith, which created an intense rivalry with Jack, who was in contrast the man of science. When we first meet Locke on the island, he is portrayed as a mysterious, intellectual, and stoic character. He seems to be right at home in the wild. When it comes to the more dangerous threat of the island, there is no one the group trusts more than Locke. Locke believes that the island chooses him to be its protector, and this belief is reinforced throughout the show. Lost is kind of set up not to let one character be the main focus, but it is hard to deny just how much Lost is dependent on John Locke. On the surface, you would have thought Locke would be just the old man character you see in most shows, but he ended up being so much more. Locke is the character that took Lost from a good show to a great show. Locke was the character we looked to try and explain the things that were happening on the island. Locke was the one person on the show you felt had his stuff together. Everyone else was worried and would panic, but not Locke. Locke was that calm force on the island that made you feel that the survivors would make it.
Locke becomes the most attuned toward the island and has no intention of leaving it. It is then revealed that Locke is an expert at hunting and tracking. Early on, when the group first got to the island, they were low on food and water. That when one of Locke's abilities was revealed, he was an expert hunter and tracker. Locke would hunt the boars on the island to feed the group. His tracking skills were just as good. Whether hunting animals or people, Locke would be able to track it. It's funny when you think about it, that Jack found the water and Locke was their source of food. If not for Locke, the survivors would have starved in a matter of days. Locke was the person who was the most suited to make it on the island. Locke isn't just some brute, he is highly intelligent and wise. Locke is almost like a walking philosophy book. He often quotes people from history, giving sage advice or helping the other survivors solve a problem by telling a story that directly relates to their problem. Locke also mentors different members of the group. He took Boone and Walt under his wing early on and acted as somewhat of a father figure to them. He helped Charlie fight and conquer his addiction. Locke knew that Charlie had a problem even though Charlie was hiding it from everyone. Locke's insight at times seems magical. He also knew what carrot to use to get Charlie to beat his addiction. Locke would even provide Jack with advice on how to be a leader and other things. It was the reason that Walt took liking to Locke. Locke never talked to Walt like he was a child, even though Walt was. Locke tries to get the other survivors to see the island through his eyes. Locke has the greatest connection to the island. He is not shaken or afraid of things on the island. He feels like the island is his true home, and he never wants to leave. Locke's belief is so strong that he thinks that the monster won't harm him. Locke has a conversation with Jack suggesting that seeing a dead person on the island could be possible. The island is a purpose Locke has been looking for his whole life. The island was a second chance for Locke. The island gave Locke the ability to be the man he always dreamed himself to be. Locke believes himself to be the chosen one. He is even able to convince Richard that he is the new leader of the island.
It can be good to have faith, but not just blind faith. John Locke would constantly believe all his actions were right, even when they went wrong, because the island was guiding him. Locke took too long to even question if the island might be helping him for sinister reasons. Locke was willing to even sacrifice his fellow survivors for the island. For example, when Locke told Jack that Boone was a sacrifice the island demanded. Locke's extreme devotion to the island often puts him at odds with some of the other survivors, mainly Jack and Michael. However, his and Michael's issues had more to do with Walt hanging around Locke. Walt looked up to Locke and listened to him more than he did his father. Locke also would hide information about the island from the group. Like when he and Boone found the hatch. Locke will put the island first in all his decisions, which can be a blind spot for him at times. You really can't blame Locke for thinking this way. The island gave him his dream life. The island would help and guide Locke time and time again. Locke ends up depending on the island too much. He was afraid the island would take back the gifts it gave to him. Locke's other main weakness is that he can't come to terms with his limitations. Due to his life before the island, Locke wouldn't let his condition stop him from doing anything, if he could. Even if it was physically impossible for Locke to do, he could not accept the reality of the situation. Locke would fight tooth and nail to prove that he is capable of doing anything. When he got to the island, that belief multiplied. Locke can't stand it when someone tells him he can't do something. It is in those moments when Locke seems to get the most emotional and start being more reckless. Locke will even work against the group when they make efforts to leave the island. Locke is a perfect example of a person's greatest strengths are also their greatest weakness. Locke's connection to the island helps him, but at the same time, the island is the thing that does the most harm to him as well. Locke's blind faith in the island was obsessive. Like with the hatch. To Locke, the hatch was the island testing him again. He thought pushing that button was the most important thing in the world. Locke's conviction in his belief that he was the chosen one was unmatched. But it is that same conviction that lets others manipulate him. They would use his belief in the island against him. Locke wants and needs to feel like he is important. He needs for his life to have greater meaning. It is this belief that makes the John Locke story so tragic. John Locke is a man who thinks he's special, but finds out he's really not. In that speech, Jack told him that he is not important. And that Locke is just a lonely old man who crashed on an island, really hit home in the end.
John Locke is the heart and soul of the Lost show. It could not have worked without the John Locke character. The survivors were all lost except for John Locke. John Locke, he was the most human of all of them. Locke had both the most inspiring and tragic storyline at the same time. Locke was the man of destiny and fate. Locke is also the main source of most of the issues the characters have. This is one of the reasons why this is such a great character. You can love and hate him at the same time. Locke was the person that drove the show. It was Locke's character that had some of the most interesting questions and scenes. Locke may have been manipulated by some, but that doesn't take anything away from his character. It just helped proves Locke's greatness, that he was not just some plot device like in other shows. Locke was a very well-written character. You can't talk about Lost without bringing up John Locke. This is why I grant Locke the character rating of an iconic character. What do you think about the character of John Locke? Leave a comment, please like and subscribe if you liked the video. It's back to the shadows. Thanks for watching.